We're in the middle of a series called The Clash. Apparently that is a name of a band. Mike could tell you more about it. I'm not up on The Clash. Anybody here up on The Clash? What era are they from, please? You know, I should be up on The Clash because that's when I actually listened to music in the late 70s and early 80s. So thank you. Did they have a famous song? One? Any others? None of them are ringing a bell for me. Still not doing it. Come on, Kevin. I'm the wrong guy to be speaking on The Clash. What? Anyway, the idea behind The Clash was to... Oh, here we go. Yeah, no. Thanks, Edwin. Yeah, that's helpful. If you just... What would be really helpful if you just played that little slow, just dead behind me while I speak. That'd be great. Keep everybody awake. Oh, I know this one. There we go. I feel so much better. Not that I felt bad before, but all right. Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to take communion. Oh, this is off to a great start. Thanks, Erwin. Okay. What was I? Okay, I am speaking on the clash is how we've juxtaposed a couple of things against each other. And this morning, I'm going to talk about community in an age of individualism. Some big words, but pretty common problem. Even though we actually live in a time of just about complete global connection. You can connect with just about anybody, anywhere, all over the world. The Surgeon General in 2023 now, in 2023 declared that we are having an epidemic of loneliness. I don't know if you heard this or not. And it wasn't just some psychologist or somebody just saying, hey, I think there's an epidemic of loneliness. Actually, they called it this from the government level, that we're just entering, or we have been. And I think part of this, and you might agree with this or might not agree with this, had to do with the lingering effects of what happened to us during COVID. But I think what set us up for it was what happened prior to COVID. But we enter into this season, we are in a season of which we are awfully disconnected from one another. And I think part of it is the way our culture is designed, and part of it is the way that we as humans go about life. And so, spurred on by this 2023 announcement by the Surgeon General, Harvard decided to do a study, and did a study just of America, not just the globe, but just of America, which we happen to live in. And they asked a group of about 7,500 Americans, what is the leading cause of loneliness in America? And this is the general response. These are the top 10. It says, first of all, 73% of those people said technology was one of the biggest reasons for loneliness, because there's this artificial sense of I'm in a relationship, but I'm not. I can see people, but I can't really engage with people. I'm not really seen, but I'm noticed. So they put technology first. And I personally, we just did a Journey on My Mind. It dropped this week on AI. I don't know, anybody here listen to that? One, thank you. We have 12 listeners. But if you get a chance, it's worth your listen. Journey on My Mind is the podcast that we do on psychology and faith and how they interact. It's worth your time to just take a listen to that one if you get a chance. I think it speaks to this whole idea of how AI is, you literally can have a conversation with artificial intelligence, and they'll talk back to you like real humans. It's crazy. but it won't replace a real human. That's the part that gets a little sticky. Okay, the second thing is insufficient time with family. The third thing was people are overworked or too busy or too tired. Mental health challenges that harm relationships, living in a society that is too individualistic, absence of religious or spiritual life, and then too much of a focus on one's own feelings and the changing and the nature of work, from going to work to remote to hybrids, has caused all kinds of issues with loneliness. And so they wrote an article about it. I was kind of engaged in it, and I went back to it. I've read it a few times. But it speaks to, I think, the nature of who we are as individuals. It speaks to us as a country. It speaks to, I think, where we are as a church and how we engage in what is probably one of the biggest struggles we have culturally, is loneliness. And so they didn't leave it there. They actually asked, what is the remedy? What remedies do Americans propose to tackle this issue of loneliness? And there were 4 overriding answers, which surprised me. The first one is, be the person that reaches out to family and friends. Don't wait for them to reach out to you. So it's be proactive, reach out. The second one is learn how to love yourself. The next one is learn to be more forgiving of others. They see the broken relationships, so forgiveness. And then the last one was find ways to help others. Seems somewhat unintuitive, but yet intuitive all at the same time. So reach out to family and friends, learn to love myself, learn to be more forgiving of others, find ways to help others. Sounds a lot like the kingdom of God to me. And so we as humans have naturally and purposefully, especially us Americans, we're in the pursuit of happiness. We have been told that we are rugged individualists. We have built our culture on this idea. So it's kind of built into the DNA of who we are. In Genesis chapter 2, though, after declaring, we're going to go back to Genesis for just a second. In chapter 2, the author of Genesis is just writing out, these are the things that God created, and he declares them all good. And he gets to one spot, and he goes, Adam was alone, and it wasn't good. And the solution to that problem was, as we all know, another human. And so the cure for loneliness in this case is other humans. And I know, you go, I learned this in kindergarten, Kevin. Yep, you did. Did you learn how to practice it as an adult? Is the question. Because we've been told our whole lives that we need to learn how to share. We need to know how to get along with one another. We need to learn how to work on a team. We need to learn these things. And as we do learn these things, we often miss the point of connection. We miss the point of going deeper. We miss the point of seeing other people. We want to be seen, but we miss the point of seeing others. And so as we wrestle with this, the idea of individualism is this. And this is, I was raised this way. I was taught this way. I understand life this way, is this idea that I am self-made and I am self-reliant. And that's the best way to live, is to be you don't need to depend on other people. The less people you have to depend on, the better off you'll be, because then you can control the outcomes. And culturally, we kind of function this way. And it's an illusion, okay? The illusion is that you are self-reliant and self-made. And if you're in the room and you're going, wait a minute, I'm self-made. Okay, give me a second. I'll unpack that for just a second. It's very appealing to be able to say that I am who I am and I made myself this way, when in reality, none of us were raised by ourselves. You were raised by somebody. Somebody invested in you. Somebody raised you at some point. Somebody told you right from wrong or told you wrong. Doesn't matter. That you were raised and you were dependent on somebody for your food, and then you grow up and you go to school. You know, you go to school. So, I know not everybody goes to school anymore, but when I was growing up, we went to school. And we went to school and we learned from teachers, and I learned a ton from teachers. And in that, I am not self-made. I was taught. I was poured into. People invested in me. And odds are that's true of you. Maybe not in the way you wanted, maybe not in the way that you expected, but ultimately you've learned from other people. It's part of the deal. People had to feed you. People had to educate you. People had to teach you a job. People had to teach you all kinds of things. And so we're not these independent, we're interdependent people. The degree in which we acknowledge that is the means by which you will find yourself being lonely or unlonely. And a part of a community breaks that down. See, it's an illusion. It's actually a lie that is fed to us, that is propagated by a world that believes that this life is all there is, and I need to get mine. Our whole economy is built on the idea of the pursuit of happiness. It's built on this idea of competition. It's built on the idea that there is a zero-sum game. There's only a big enough piece of pie, or there's only one pie, and you only get so much of it. And then once it's gone, it's gone. That's the illusion. It's just not a true picture of what it is to be in the world, especially from the perspective of God. And so it's really not a zero-sum game when it comes to this. But we've been told it is. That's the part that gets a little crazy for people. We don't just enter into time. You weren't just born at some random time, at a random place, in a random environment. You actually were born into a time when a lot of previous work was done, a lot of time when I grew up, a laptop computer was not even a thing. And somehow, some way, I'm sitting up here with a notebook that I just have to touch. In our lifetime, the technology has grown exponentially. But this technology started in the 50s. I was born in the 60s. And I heard the Clash apparently in the 70s. And so we build on what we've already, so you are not self-made. You are not self-reliant. There's an independent. Who grows your food, by the way? Do you grow your own food? Some of you in the room, yeah, I grow my own food. Great. Where do you get your seeds? I grow my own seeds. No, you don't. Where do you get your water? Where do you get? I mean, the answer to that question is we're all intertwined and interdependent. We can limit it, but we can't eliminate it. So, with that struggle of the idea of dependence and interdependence and our pride and our wanting to be self-reliant, there's so many things that keep us in a place where we're not really sure how to enter into community. But for me, when I moved out of my parents' house, when I was 17, I moved out of my parents' house. I moved everything I owned in a Jeep Cherokee Chief. Everything. Put it all in there. I could do it in an hour. Fit it all in. Some of it was in the front seat, but I could get it all in there. Go to college, and I can unload it all by myself. And then after college, I got married. And something changed when I moved. Now I had my wife's stuff, I had my stuff, and somehow, somewhere along the line, we bought furniture. And heavy furniture that required me to go, hey, I need some help. So I asked some friends, some family members, can you help us move? So we moved, we loaded the truck, moved, and they helped me unload it. And I realized, okay, this is all right. And then we did the unthinkable. We had children. And in having children, they bring a load of stuff. Does anybody here have children? You realize how much more stuff you get when you have children? You need a bigger house, you need bigger stuff. And then when you move, my friends weren't enough. My family wasn't enough. And I was broke, quite honestly. And so the answer to the question was, hey, church, can you help me? Can you help me move? And so it It moved from, oh, I can do this myself, to I need some help. And then I really needed some help. And the idea behind that, just that little illustration, if you can relate to it at all, is I had to move from self-reliance to interdependence over a period of time with the realization that I can't do it myself. It's a small realization. It's an obvious realization, but it is life in a little bit of a nutshell. Is that you learn over time, I actually need people. I had to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. It is okay to get others involved in what your needs are. But it's also okay to help people. See, this is where it turned on me later in life, is that I have helped countless people move. I don't know how many anymore, but I do it. And what I've learned over the years in helping people move is this, is that most people don't know how to pack a truck because they haven't had to do it 100 times. If you do it 100 times, you know how to pack a truck in such a way that stuff doesn't move and nobody's stuff gets wrecked. And guess what? When I go to help people's move, you know what they make me do? Pack the truck, which is fine. It's less walking. But on a hot day, like on a really hot day, being in the truck sucks because it's like, oh, awful. But the other thing I learned in all of that was one time, Lori and I moved from Chicago to Pennsylvania, and we had to load up all our stuff in a truck. And we had just bought a new table, nice table, a table that was made of oak. And it was our dining room table, and Lori had always wanted one of those. And I covered it with a sleeping bag that had a zipper. Yes, O is right. So we drove across the country with that zipper just, and we got to Pennsylvania, and we had a nice scar down the middle of our brand new table. You know what? That's a piece of information I now share with others. As I load a truck, things with zippers are not used to pad anything of value. Things, so you learn stuff along the way, right? So if you're moving, you want somebody that's done enough stupid stuff in their life that you could go, that's not a good way to pack that. That's not a good way to do that. And then eventually they just say, why don't you pack the truck? Do you see what I am saying? Life is filled with this stuff. I can let people do whatever they want, or I can engage and ask for help, or I can be the person lending help. And with years of mistakes, I can hopefully help somebody else, not unload a table and go, ugh, we just wrecked a table. Make sense? So with that, we are going to delve into this idea of us as individuals interacting with each other in a community that draws us into a place where we move from this idea of being individuals into being community while keeping our uniqueness. And so in order to do that, we need to really look at John 17:20-23 first. And this is Jesus praying for us. He's about to go to the cross. He just got done eating dinner with his disciples. He had washed their feet, and he says, and he's praying. He says, my prayer is not for them alone, for his disciples. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. That would be us. That all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. Relationship. May they also be in us, that the world may believe that you have sent me. I've given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. I and them and you and me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. And so with this, I want you to hear the word unity in light of how Jesus meant it. Oftentimes, when we hear unity, we hear a different word. We use uniformity or we hear conformity. And I have a chart, people. I have a chart. Not really, it's just a couple of phrases. But when we're speaking of unity, We're speaking of harmony, agreement, cooperation among a diverse people. The key words here is diverse people. And then when you think of uniformity, it's sameness, homogeneity, and standardization with minimal differences. There's a big difference between unity and uniformity. Uniformity requires us to lose our diversity, sameness, and then unity respects and embraces diversity while pursuing a common goal, and uniformity minimizes or eliminates difference as to create a sense of sameness. So it's looking for sameness, and then conformity looks for behavioral compliance. If we could just all behave the same way. And so when Jesus talks about complete unity, he's talking about this idea of allowing all the diversity to come into the kingdom of God, maintain that diversity, their uniqueness. Each human with their own uniqueness comes in. Without losing that uniqueness, we are all unified around the person of Christ. And this is where our center set ministry ideas come into play. Rather than building boundaries that say you have to conform to this behavior set, or building boundaries that say you have to look like a particular way, we are saying that you have to come to Jesus or be oriented towards Jesus, who is in the middle. He is the focal point of what we do. And in doing so, you can come at Jesus from the north, the south, the east, the west, the bottom, the top, the side. It doesn't matter. But with that comes this unique perspective. It's a 360-degree approach to Jesus without the boundaries that keep you in or out of the community. And so with that, you get a very diverse community unified around the middle, the center, thus the center set. Unity allows us to keep our uniqueness. It allows you to keep what makes you you. Uniformity takes away our uniqueness and requires us to be different than who we are. Conformity just requires an outward compliance. And so you find yourself then just complying because you want to be a part of something, but it's not really who you are. All right, I'm going to pause for just a moment. It's really important that that's clear. Is there a question from anybody to make that more clear? Just a question, no comments, just question. If there's no question, I'm going to assume everybody got that. There will be a test later. All right. I believe you. I'm not that good a teacher. I must have said it 100 times before. So as we approach this idea of what it means to be unified as a community, we are committed to the center. And with that, the question that it actually begs is, what does that look like? What does that kind of community look like? And what does my participation in that community look like? And so if I bring my full self, if I bring my uniqueness and I bring who I am to a community, what does that do? And the idea is, I think as I read the scriptures and as I think Jesus describes it, is as we come together around the center who is Jesus, and we all are focusing and becoming more like the center, what happens is, as the community is more diverse, the bigger picture people get of God. Because we all bring some aspect of who God is to the community, and then it is reflected into the world around us. And so with that, Paul wrote the letter to the Romans as a theological treatise. I'm not going to go through the whole book of Romans. We're just going to be in chapter 12, of understanding who God is, who we are, what Jesus did for us, our relationship with other people, our relationship with sin. It's all on a theological level. And then he dives into this, therefore, this is what it looks like. And so I'm going to walk through Romans 12 real quick. Not real quick, kind of slow. So as I walk through this, I want to touch on different things and give you a perspective of, as a community of Jesus followers, what does it look like? What does it look like to follow Jesus? And so he starts with a therefore statement. So therefore, as a result of all the theology, as a result of who God is, the result of who you are, the type of relationships that you're supposed to have, etc., this then is what it's supposed to look like. I urge you, brothers and sisters, it's born out of relationship. And it is in this idea that we begin to be really understanding what it means to be seen and to be known. In view of God's mercy, he's drawing forward out of his theology. He explains what mercy is. It is God's disposition towards us based upon who we are, lost in our sin, but yet he has mercy on us. And so in his mercy, to offer, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is a phrase that is, and I want to finish it. This is your true and proper worship. So as a result of being brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, we collectively are to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice. He uses the word bodies here because he wants us to understand that it's more than just an intellectual exercise. It's more than it's more than just being thoughtful. It is about how we live, how we use our bodies in this world that matters as a form of worship. And so worship moves well beyond the idea of songs. It moves well beyond a moment. I need a bottle of water. It's well beyond the idea that I go to a church to worship. That's not the context. The context is my whole life turns into worship. It's how I live. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to bring that out. Live in such a way that it is worship. So, and then he contrasts that with the way we think. He goes to verse 2 and he says, do not conform to the pattern of this world. So conformity again, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Thank you, Susie. Appreciate it. 2. That's better. So he's contrasting for us from the world to how we are to live by also talking not just about an act of worship, but the renewing of the mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Don't allow yourself just to merely passively fall into the ways of the world. We have a tendency to do that. We have a tendency to passively just do what is around us. And yet, what he's trying to do is draw into this equation of if a community who is centered on Jesus will live a different way. There will be a different pattern. You will stand out. It will be different. And in that difference, it's a transformation that begins in the mind and is actually lived out in the body. And so, verse 3, for by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, this is what it looks like, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. There is a sense of where we do some self-evaluation. He's saying, pay attention to how you are measuring yourself against others. Don't do it. Don't think of yourself as better. A community that is centered on Jesus has this sense of equilibrium. It has a sense of everyone is equals. There's not a hierarchy. We all are in pursuit of the same thing. We join the community knowing that as we pursue Christ, our equality, male, female, Greek, Jew, slave, free, all the same. But oftentimes, what is one of the greatest hindrances to unity within the body and to the community itself is the ability to be able to create hierarchies, cliques, disassociation from one another, being able to put people in different categories through economic status, through race, through political party, you fill in the blank. Because we do that. And the goal is to have all of those things as a part of a community in its diversity, people bringing their individuality without there being a hierarchy or a sense of judgment upon each other. Hard to do. Hard to do. Because we naturally fall into that. So he goes on to say this, for just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, they do different things. So in Christ, we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. This is one of the best descriptions of community. We belong to each other. It's a sense of understanding. I know we get belonging, but do we understand belonging? There is a degree of which where we enter into a community and we test the water. We want to know whether it's safe. We want to know whether I can be myself here. And oftentimes before we even get to that point where we realize we start adapting to the environment and we don't bring our unique self because we want acceptance more than we want truly to be seen as ourselves. And so what happens is we don't bring our unique self. We usually bring some version of that. And then hopefully what happens is we enter into the community and it feels safe. We allow the uniqueness of ourselves to come out and we allow ourselves to fully be seen. But we are protective by nature because many of us, and I know many of you in the room have been burned by an environment just like this. And so there's a little bit of hesitancy. There's a wall that we build of protection that doesn't, and that is one of the things that makes it really hard to be seen, to be known, and lose our loneliness. Because the key to losing our loneliness is to be seen. And we keep our individualism, we keep our self-reliance, unsure of whether or not the community we are entering will actually help us move forward in being seen. And that's the struggle. That is the ongoing struggle. That is the struggle of this church, this environment, this group of people, is can we create an environment that allows for people to bring their uniqueness, join together, which allows the community to be more full, more rich, a better reflection of who Jesus is. We're able to lay aside our differences and join around this person of Jesus. Because in verse 6, he says, we have different gifts. We are unique. According to the grace given to each of us, your uniqueness is your gift. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it's to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. If it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully. Do your thing, that you are the gift. You bring something that no one else brings. Participate in the kingdom. Participate in the community. And what you'll find is you will find a place where you belong. Now, is this a perfect scenario? No, because there's a lot of us that struggle with either accepting one another. We struggle with what we bring, and sometimes we clash and there's conflict. It's why there's a whole bunch of passages on resolving conflict, and there's a whole bunch of passages on forgiveness, and there's a whole bunch of, but that's part of the deal. That's part of the struggle. Because if it was easy, if it was just easy, everybody would do it. I played team sports growing up. Anybody play team sports? No? One person. Y'all play golf? What? And we got a golfer over there. Team sports are one of the best microcosms of community. You get a group of people together to accomplish one thing, win a game. But they have to rely on each other and they have to do their part. One person doesn't do their part, the team doesn't work. Doesn't matter what that part is on the team breaks down. And when that happens, oftentimes if somebody does it enough, the team turns on that person. And you see the microcosm of human nature. You see the struggle of forgiveness. You see the struggle of not accomplishing what we were trying to accomplish. You see a lot of hurt feelings. But in order to get back out there and play again, you got to resolve it. If you don't resolve it, that your season's shot because there's no trust among one another. The same is true in a community like this. Without trust, without transparency, without vulnerability, without being in the game, forgiveness is hard. Trust is hard. Not everybody gets it right. Nobody I know gets it right all the time. And so forgiveness is part of it. But we bring our uniqueness. We do our thing. We participate in the kingdom of God. And then he says this. What does it look like? He says, love must be sincere, so don't just fake it. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need and practice hospitality. Man, that sounds like the kingdom of God. But notice, in that little, it's don't do this, do this. But it's be devoted to one another, honor one another. Keep your spiritual fervor, serve the Lord, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction. That means that there's going to be affliction. It means that there's going to be evil. It means that there's going to be problems. But be patient in the affliction. Practice hospitality. I love that he kind of wraps it up and goes on, practice hospitality. Be hospitable. And then he moves on to how does this community interact with the world? He says, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Well, I'm not good at this. Rejoice with those who rejoice. I can do that. Mourn with those who mourn. I'm okay with that. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of lower position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. And I say, are you sure? On the contrary, he says, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing so, this is the part I like, you will heap burning coals on his head. And then the last verse, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. It just looks different. It feels different. It looks different because it's the kingdom. It looks different because it's the pursuit of Jesus. This is how he interacted with the world. He didn't allow evil to overcome him. So hard. So hard. That's why we do it in groups. That's why he put us together, so that we can encourage each other. We can, when you're down, I can apply my faith to you. I can help you. And when I'm not doing well, you can help me. It's what it is supposed to be. That's your uniqueness coming to play. There's things that bother me that don't bother Susie. And there are things that bother Susie that don't bother me. And we can encourage one another in the midst of moments when we're having bad days and when it's not going as planned. It is the interaction of the community that allows us to be able to not be the same, bring our uniqueness, create an environment where all are honored, all are respected, and in that we find that what it brings is a more complete picture of who God is. Because we are created in his image. We are designed for community. We are made for it. But we resist it because it causes pain. Because the risk of hurt often trumps whether or not we will be engaged fully in our unique self. Whew. But here's some truths. Community is where individuals become greater than just their individual self. The combination of our individual uniqueness is greater than the parts. We are more than that because God is in the middle of it. Being engaged and seen in a community is one of the best remedies for loneliness. You were given your individual uniqueness for a greater purpose, for a greater good, and just to be served for you. When we act as a community, we are greater than the sum of the parts. I went back to the article that they wrote on the Harvard research that I started with. And they listed off what the people they surveyed thought, but they had some ideas on what is the best remedy for loneliness. And this is what they wrote. The researchers stressed the need to promote a culture that cares and serves others, cares for and serves others. Collective service can provide important connections that relieve loneliness, as well as cultivating meaning and purpose and mitigating mental health challenges. A community that serves others is the means by which loneliness is most remedied. What? I read that and I thought, that's the kingdom of God. They are talking about what the church is supposed to be. A place where you bring your uniqueness. We're all following Jesus. We're in a place where we can be ourselves. We can honestly be vulnerable to one another. And I get it. I get it. That's scary and risky and difficult. But if we're chasing something as a community, that's what we're chasing. Is a place where we center on the God of the universe who designed us to be in relationship with him and with each other in such a way that it brings about a place where you're seen, respected, and you bring your uniqueness. In a world that says, do it yourself. We stand in opposition. We'll do a little Q&R. If you have any questions, I will respond, but we're going to kind of keep them to questions. If you have comments, please save them for lunch. But if you have questions, I am in the game here to at least respond. Maybe not the way you like, but I'll try.
You said something that I keyed on. I've heard it said in different ways, and I'm wondering if you would talk about it a bit.
That's all right.
Which is like that idea of borrowing each other's hope and each other's faith.
Yeah. You want me to expound on that?
Yeah.
Okay. I think there are times in my life when I lose my faith, for lack of a better, I'm going to just say it that way. When I feel like God is distant, he's not present, I'm lost in the equation, hope is hard to find. And what I find is that the people around me buoy me in those moments, or they contribute to my loss of faith, one or the other. And so in those moments of doubt, in those moments of, oh no, this is not good, to have someone come alongside me and say, I'm with you, I'll hold you up, I will walk with you through this difficult moment that you're having, it buoys my faith. Somebody else speaking faith into me helps me walk out my faith better. Because then I'm not alone, I'm seen, and it's what the community does for me. Sometimes not all of us can just always be rooted in our faith all the time. And when you lose hope, you need somebody that has some. And when you lose your faith, you need somebody who has some. And it's kind of like being Jesus with flesh with skin on for you. Does that help? Oh, yeah, that you can that I do that periodically. I prefer that side of it. There is a means by which you can speak truth into people's lives, but most of the time when you're bullying somebody who's kind of lost hope and lost faith, it's being present, it's hearing them, it's allowing them to know that you're as vulnerable as they are. It's joining them in their sorrow. It's joining them in their joy. All of those things. It's joining them where they are, and also saying, "I'm with you, and I'll pray with you, and I'll stand with you." And God has not abandoned you. At least He's not abandoned us both. He may abandon you, but He hasn't abandoned me. But that's enough sometimes, just to buoy somebody. But being present is probably the biggest element to that, and not judging them. A lot of times when I would think when I was younger to share with somebody, I don't believe anymore. I think God's abandoned me. I think I would usually get, you're just a rotten sinner, and I would get condemnation from those statements rather than the encouragement of, it's okay, I've got enough for both of us. You're going to be all right. We'll walk through this together. That would have been more helpful than, yeah, well, you're destined for hell, you little hellion. Yeah, well, those two things go together. Over here. You getting your steps in, Susie?
So we want unity without uniformity and community without conformity.
Yep.
How do we practice that? How do we build and maintain that when there are differences in values, in worldview that feel really fundamental?
That's the question of the day. That is well stated too, by the way. I would say this. What matters most is the center. If the center is Jesus, and we are all oriented toward Jesus, whether we come from a worldview that's on the other side, whether somebody comes to me and says, hey, I actually believe the world's flat, not round. I believe that multiple different things, but I come at it from this way and he comes at Jesus from that way. What's fundamental is Jesus. The rest of it becomes discussion and not judgment. And so as we move through life in a community, whether someone holds a strong position on something that I don't, it becomes a non-issue for me. Unless the issue is about the center. The center becomes the crucial piece that holds the community together, not my personal values, but Jesus's values. Not my personal view on things, but Jesus's view on those things. If they are central to Jesus, then they need to be central to the community. And then I think Romans 12 does a great job of spelling out what that looks like. There's also passages in Scripture where we defer to the weaker brother. We defer to people who hold positions that we might not, without making them a bridge or a requirement for them to join me here in order for me to be in the same community with them. If I've set up some kind of artificial agreement that you and I have to have in order for you to follow Jesus, but it's not something that Jesus requires, we've added something to the gospel that isn't required. And one of those might be my core values. I have some core values that don't always align. So I have to go, okay, I live this way, they live this way, but we're both oriented towards Jesus, but their values are different. They might not value family like I value family, or they might not value the United States like I value the United States. Those are periphery. Those are things that are on the sideline. And so we have to be able to be discerning, and that's where the community kind of teases that out a little bit for us. We want diversity because it moves us away from an artificial faith that is based on something other than Jesus. We want there to be diversity because it It points out where we're judgmental. It points out where we're condemning. And so the diversity serves multiple purposes within a community that's following Jesus because it makes the other stuff less important. I think that's right. Does that help? Cool. One more. Dave, you're going to close us on the questions. The band can come up. I hopefully can answer this while they're getting up here.
This is a question about center set.
Yeah.
So I'm tracking that the community, you used language like orient yourself to Jesus, that we're all following Jesus. But I love the idea that as a community, we grow through diversity. We grow through everybody's perspective. And some perspective that for me is helpful is to have people in the community that are not oriented to Jesus.
Sure.
That are angry at God, that are pointed away, that are questioning it all.
Right.
And how can we be a community that welcomes and embraces that kind of diversity, even though we're built around the alignment of Jesus? What about the people that would even self-describe themselves as being out of alignment with Jesus?
They're welcome. They're welcome at the table. They're welcome to interact with us. They're welcome, but if that orientation pulls the community away from the center, that's when it becomes detrimental. When it becomes something that is hurting the community, you have to do something about it. But it isn't. Oftentimes, it's their how else are they going to get oriented toward Jesus unless they interact with a bunch of people who are? And then it becomes the part of the miracle of people walking towards just reoriented. I know people that have been oriented to Jesus for a long, long time, and they've turned and walked away. Those are more difficult because they've had a taste of what it means to follow Jesus, and they've somehow lost their way. Now, it's not possible, but I know there's people that come here that are like that, and they're trying to find their way back. But oftentimes, that Jesus that they were following was not the Jesus that I would describe as the Jesus of the Bible. They were following one that had fences and was condemning, and it was the Jesus I followed when I was younger. He was harsh and cruel rather than redemptive. So those things all play a part. But everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome to the fray because it's an open table, which leads us to communion. We're going to take communion. You're welcome to join us at the table. It's just another opportunity for us to be reminded of all that was given for us as we take the bread, dip it in the cup, and we partake. And just to be reminded you're part of something bigger. You're part of something that is a community that's desperately trying to follow the one who died for us. And as you take, be reminded that you're loved deeply. Also, I just want to remind you that we have stations in the room where you can write a prayer request. There's paper. We do pray every Tuesday for the prayer requests and want to be helpful, want God to interact with you in those things. And then there's places to give as well. And so we just invite you to join us around the table. Thanks, guys.